Hello, I am Ann Linton, Director of the Himmelfarb Health Sciences Library, and I will be speaking today on literature reviews and conceptual frames. By the end of the session, you should be able to identify the major elements involved in conducting a literature review and selecting a conceptual frame for an education research study. A literature review is a comprehensive and up-to-date overview of published information on a subject area. A good literature review generally covers what is known about a subject and its chronology, and goes on to identify any gaps in the literature, as well as points of consensus and debate on the research topic. Generally, researchers begin the research planning process with a literature review. They use the review to summarize the state of the art in a field, synthesize earlier research, and identify knowledge gaps and areas for future research. The exercise of reviewing the literature often gives the researcher the opportunity to frame and solidify the research question. As discussed in the introductory module, Designed to Align, a well-designed study uses a conceptual frame to guide the research. Per Bordage, a conceptual frame is a way to think about a problem or question. It can be used to represent how complex things work. It is based on the literature and guides the exploration of the research question. The conceptual framework is usually a theory or model that has been published and may have been tested in context other than the one you are studying. It determines the perspective or domains from which the research question will be explored. It has implications for the type of study to be conducted, for instance, quantitative, qualitative, or mixed methods, as well as for the specific methodology. The conceptual frame identifies variables to explore in a quantitative study, or it identifies ideas for interview questions to be asked and/or elements to be considered while conducting observations or reviewing documents in a qualitative study. Conceptual frames are often identified when conducting the literature review. For example, for the research question, what is the nature of the experiences in a student-run clinic that contribute to medical student perspectives of interprofessional collaboration? Possible frames that might be used to guide the research include theories on experiential and organizational learning found in the education and business literature. Alternatively, you may discover that researchers have used service learning, cooperative learning, or apprenticeship theories to frame their research. The choice of conceptual frame is based on the literature. What frames offer the best opportunity for answering your research question? You should be able to defend your choice of conceptual frame using the published literature. Moreover, the methodology section of your research design should be consistent with that discussed in the literature on the conceptual frame. The consideration of the conceptual frame should be taken very seriously, as the lack of a frame is one of the major reasons manuscripts are rejected from publication. Together with the literature review, the conceptual frame forms the foundation of your research project. You need both a well-formed research question and a conceptual lens through which the study is conducted. The process of forming a well-formed research question is iterative. Start by stating your research question succinctly in 6 to 8 words. Then test the waters with some preliminary searching in a database like PubMed. See what's out there on your topic. Can you identify seminal or classic works in your area? Which authors have been frequently cited or are clearly experts in the field? Then, categorize and synthesize the literature you have found. Ask, how are the terms of your research topic defined in the literature? What characteristics, processes, triggers, outcomes, facilitators, or barriers have been studied? In what types of organizations and environments have the studies been conducted? How have the studies been conducted? What types of conceptual frames, methods, and participants were involved? What theoretical perspectives might inform the topic? Are they from medicine and health sciences, or from other fields such as psychology, sociology, education, and business? What have the authors suggested as additional research? Now, take a look at your work thus far. What do the results of your synthesis and categorization of the literature tell you? Are there facets of your topic you have overlooked? What aspects of the topic are most ripe for research? Have you identified areas that need further exploration? What makes the most sense in a conceptual frame? Why? Remember, this process is iterative. It is expected that you will reframe your topic and recheck the literature before you formulate the research question you want to answer with your study, and the conceptual frame you will use to guide the exploration. There are numerous online databases to choose from for any literature review. Consider your topic and its scope to select the most useful databases for researching the topic. For this particular question on experiences in a student-run clinic, you will want to explore medical databases like PubMed, which covers medical education, and possibly CINAHL, the Cumulative Index to Nursing and Allied Health Literature, which covers the literature of health sciences education. You might want to explore a multidisciplinary database such as Scopus, which also provides references to citing articles. The literature outside of the health sciences can greatly inform your research too, and you will want to explore databases such as PsycInfo, which covers human psychology, and ERIC, which covers the field of education broadly. Sociological Abstracts contains articles on the social and behavioral sciences. Each of these 3 databases covers professional education and adult learning theories, and may include additional information on your conceptual framework and its applications in medical education. The business literature is also replete with articles on topics like teamwork, team building, and organizational learning, much of which can be applied to clinical settings. You can find this research in ABI Info. You can begin to identify a research question by considering the topic from a variety of perspectives. For example, if you are interested in the nature of the experiences in a student-run clinic that contribute to medical students' perspectives of interprofessional collaboration, you will need to consider how you will identify and categorize various student experiences. To assess the contribution of these experiences to student perspectives, you could look at student perspectives on interprofessional collaboration before and after working in a student-run clinic. Alternatively, you could identify the characteristics of the experience which change receptivity to interprofessional collaboration over the course of participation, or you might consider the personal characteristics of students whose experiences lead to a growth in positive attitudes toward interprofessional collaboration. Whatever the case, you need to locate one research question to guide your study. As noted earlier, this is generally an iterative process involving several literature searches until you find an unanswered question you can address. A well-formed question is specific. It highlights one problem to be studied and sharply focuses on your purpose. Do you want to seek a solution, apply an intervention, or measure outcomes? A good question is also answerable, measurable, and directly related to the educational process. It seeks to describe an issue by looking at the what, how, or why of a problem. In this example, we are interested in describing the what of students' experiences in a student-run clinic and its contribution to their perspectives on interprofessional collaboration. We have asked a specific question about contributors to student perspectives on interprofessional collaboration, focused on a known phenomenon, the experience of working side by side with other healthcare professionals in a clinical educational setting, the student-run clinic. Many searchers use the PICO tool to focus their topics into a searchable and answerable format. You have probably seen this tool used to formulate questions for evidence-based medicine queries. It is often helpful for non-clinical queries too. Using the PICO tool, key facets of my search question include interprofessional collaboration, medical students, student-run clinics, and experiences. These facets translate to a population of medical students, an intervention consisting of participation in a student-run clinic, and an outcome describing perspectives on interprofessional collaboration. Comparison will be determined by your definition of impact, in this case, perspectives as measured before and after participation. Kolb's experiential learning theory was selected as the conceptual frame for this study because it describes the process of how an individual learns from their experiences. The 4 main steps of concrete experience, reflective observation, abstract conceptualization, and active experimentation can be used as a guide to developing the interview questions and decoding the data and theme development. You have a well-considered research topic. You have conducted a preliminary search to fine-tune your concepts and selected databases to search comprehensively. Your next step in the literature review process is to create a search strategy using the Boolean operators and or. Group similar concepts together with the operator or. Then use the Boolean operator and to search for articles where your key concepts are all included. For instance, all of the clinic terms are grouped with an or, and then and it to the interprofessional terms. Note the use of an asterisk at the end of some search terms. This is a truncation symbol and tells your search engine to find that word with all of its various endings. Searching the word student with an asterisk tells the database to retrieve the terms student and students. A search in PubMed indicates that several authors and researchers have explored the issue of student-run clinics and interprofessional collaboration. You might want to review some of these articles more closely. Expand your search by looking at the full text to check the author's references. Skim the related or similar articles to see if there are any key articles you missed. Check to see who else has cited your article. But don't just read the abstract. Move on to the full text of the article. Begin to take notes. To take notes, keep Word or a citation or document manager program open while you review results so that you can simultaneously jot down ideas and key points while you are reading. Pay attention to what each section of an article is about. The abstract, discussion, and conclusion sections usually have the most important information. Summarize main points. Note the usefulness of each article and add keywords to represent areas covered which are not immediately obvious from the title or source, such as processes, theories, and methodologies. Critically interpret and highlight the elements that link to your research topic. Good note-taking helps with your later writing, as you will need to synthesize your search results and link and integrate any interesting ideas and concepts in your literature review. Note that one way to track and organize the references you find is to use a citation manager such as RefWorks, EndNote, or Zotero. I also did a quick search on the business literature in the ABI Inform database to scan the literature on experiential and collaborative learning outside of medicine. It is a topic also covered in the behavioral, education, social work, and training literature. Looking at these results, I can see that I will definitely be able to find some relevant articles on interprofessional learning and collaboration from other disciplines. When you do a literature review for medical education research, you need to expand beyond the standard PubMed search and let the literature from other disciplines inform your research and provide insight on how to apply your chosen conceptual framework to your research study. For example, this article in the journal Education and Training explores student-run clinics as service learning opportunities from several conceptual frames, including cooperative and experiential learning. This journal is not included in the set of journals indexed in PubMed. By limiting my search to the medical literature, I can miss key articles and research studies. As a last check, before you complete your review, step back and take a final look at the big picture. Have you traced the developmental track of the topic over time? Have you explained the need for your research to enhance practice and contribute to theory? To summarize, a successful literature review begins with a strong research topic, identifies literature related to that topic, and summarizes what is known on that topic. The process itself can be iterative. You may need to refocus your research topic, revise search strategies, and consider new perspectives as you review the literature. However, a good literature review goes on to analyze, evaluate, and synthesize literature on a topic so that the reader can identify areas of agreement and disagreement in the field, as well as areas for future research. It presents a critical assessment of the field within a conceptual framework.